Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Think you know what way it's going to go? Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. All right, so cards on the table. I am exhausted, and that is partially due to the fact that I got a new tattoo today. And with that, I now hold the record for the fastest time to bring up a tattoo unprompted on the network, which is actually a pretty big deal. So if you'll join me for 1 second of self-indulgence. Sorry, Steve. You got to step aside. I now am the king of unprompted tattoo talk, which is actually really impressive. For those who don't know, Steve loves talking about his new tattoos, and I had to do some research into it just to double check. And he talked about his first tattoo. The line he got. It was 20 seconds on, and granted, that's not SDPN. It wasn't on this channel, so maybe that doesn't count. I don't know. But when he got his first tattoo, he made, it was before the season, so it wasn't an LFR, but it was just a video on his own channel. It took 20 seconds, so it was a tough time to beat, but I'm really proud of my achievement today. But yeah, all that to say, I am, guys, I'm exhausted. For those who don't know, I am in the UK. It is 6 a.m. So maybe not local time, but as far as, someone doing an episode of Game Over, I think I must have the latest. I must have the latest start time. So between it being 6 a.m. and like it's not a big deal. I mean, talking hockey's easy and caffeine exists, so I can kind of pump the caffeine straight into my veins and do my best to do this show. It is a rough game to talk about when I'm feeling so low energy, but we're going to do our best here. All that to say, thank you for tuning in to Game Over Ottawa. That was a really rough game. So we'll see how this goes. This being the show and the remainder of the season. So this is not a game I want to focus on for too long. So if there's anything Sens related or otherwise you want to talk about in the chat, feel free to toss stuff in now. I will go back to the chat following our hopefully kind of short talk about this game, and maybe talk about some stuff that's a bit more fun. Now look at the rest of the season. We'll take a quick look at all that. But so tonight's game, this morning's game for me, bit of a rough one. So it came in a bit of a different way than usual in the whole Sens dominate, start the game down 1-0. I think it probably happened in a more aggressive way. Honestly, the way that the Sens have been this season, especially when the team was struggling at the darkest parts of the season, the Sens come out looking so strong, and then before you know it's 1-0 for the other team. In this case, Ottawa honestly were dominating for the first 5 minutes, especially. Just I don't have the possession numbers, but it was strange. Like the Sens struggled to get the puck on net. A little past the 5-minute marker, the shot for 1-0, and granted that doesn't include Giroux hitting the post, but just really odd. Like a lot, really, the Sens really struggled to get pucks on the net while controlling the play so much. And then so Sens look great to start the game, go down 1-0. What else is new? Kind of fell apart towards the end of the first there. Didn't love, and I think a huge contrast, not only just in their defensive play towards the end of the first, but just the way they were going about their possession and having the puck in the offensive zone towards the end of the first. Like I said before, they looked dominant the first five, even stretches of 10 minutes of the game. Vancouver could not hold possession for more than a few seconds at a time. But towards the end of the first, they were getting real flashy. So the Sens went, whoever the puck carrier is, whoever brought the puck into the zone, whoever had first possession on the puck, trying their best to make. And the thing is that I can't even fault them for it because a lot of them were pulling it off. Kachuk, Chikrin, so many players were doing some real flashy shit in the offensive zone, holding the puck and looking cool while doing it, which is a plus, I guess. But like then following that, they would just mess up the easy pass. They pull off the really tough flashy move, fire off what should be a simple pass, and it's a giveaway. So just a weird first period in general. And yeah, I mean, by the time it was 3-0, I wanted to, I wanted to mentally check out. I wanted to go to bed, but um, Sens had a bit of fight in them left towards the end of the game. No, I don't. Tough to pin down any like real strong efforts, any real strong showings that I saw. So we'll keep it negative for a bit. That shorthanded giveaway by DeBrincat was the nicest way I think I can put it is catastrophic. So obviously not a good play. Um, First of all, so I haven't watched a lot of Canucks games this season. Naturally, I mean I struggle to stay up late enough to just watch the Sens games, given where I am. So I'm not staying up I'm not staying up to watch a game that starts at 3 a.m. most of the season, right? So that's my excuse. Anyway, haven't watched a ton of Canucks games. I know JT Miller is notorious for like he can score, but the last thing you want him doing is playing in the defensive zone. I had no idea that JT Miller was on the Canucks PK. Um, so the fact that he scores a shorthanded goal, uh, I didn't think that was a possibility, frankly. So I don't know. But he did that. I don't know. Listen, if you can't score on a PK that has JT Miller on it and you give up a goal, listen, it's great that 5-on-5 scoring is a thing for this team. It just sucks that it happens right when the power play forgets how to power play. The Sens cannot score on both consistently, is what we've learned. We just have to deal with it. Um, Sens go 0 for 3 on the power play. And the crippling part is that the Canucks, despite the fact that the Canucks only go 1 for 6 on the power play, and I don't have a problem with most of those penalties. I don't. Most of those penalties are purely on the Sens. But the fact that the Canucks only went 1 for 6 on the power play, it's a huge opportunity for the Sens. You go 5 out of 6 on the PK, take advantage of that, and don't just, convert on your chances before the game is basically completely out of reach. I don't know. The penalties on Giroux and Shabbat at the end of the game there, both of those are questionable, I think. Giroux, I can't remember whose stick he knocked out of. He knocked a stick out of someone's hands. I don't know. To me, it looked like they were both swiping at the puck as the puck was coming around the boards towards them, and Giroux, granted, missed and got more stick than puck. At that stage of the game, I don't know if that's a call that I'd be making. And then Shabbat got called for holding the stick after, essentially what Giroux got called for happened to Shabbat in the defensive end. So if you're going to call it, call it. Don't call half of it. And then granted, Shabbat, held the stick, like the penalty says. But listen, that was a reaction to essentially what Giroux got a penalty for. Anyway, am I sick of talking about this game? A little bit. Um, I don't know. I just okay. One more negative I want to talk about is I don't know what Hamnick was doing on that third goal. He drops to his knees way too early, takes himself completely out of the play. Like so, I don't think anyone is necessarily praising his defensive capabilities on a nightly basis. Like everyone who's been a consistent listener or viewer of Game Over Ottawa knows I've had my problems with Hamnick from the start of the season. He's proved me wrong several nights. He's proved me right probably more nights. He's had some really good games, a 2-goal game recently. He's looked great defensively on and off throughout the season. Like occasionally he'll just have a game where I can't believe it's him. Tonight, not one of those nights. And it's just one of the things. So he was on the ice with Holden on that goal. And it really is incredible how as soon as you split up the Hamnick and Sanderson pairing, it just completely exposes Hamnick's deficiencies, whether it's defensive or offensive. But like I said, he's had standout games both offensively and defensively through the season, just not as often as you'd like for someone who has as many off nights as he does. So that another thing about is Holden being out, or Holden should be out for Brandstrom, which isn't happening as we can see, which is just brutal. So we were talking about it on the Discord as well. It probably is time to move on from DJ Smith. I don't know if new ownership's going to come in and just completely clean house. Because I love what Pierre Dorion has done with his team over the past not even 12 months. Man, it's March. Called the last 9 months. What he's been able to do with this team is so impressive. I'm perfectly happy keeping Pierre on board, but I don't think new ownership's going to come in and pick and choose who stays and who goes. So I think we're at a point of we just have to accept that by the off season, or I don't know, I hope the sale goes through by the off season. But at any point that the new ownership comes in, we're probably going to be dealing with both of them or neither of them, and I'm not sure which way I land on that. I'm about to go into the chat and take a look at what the viewers have submitted in the chat. But for you folks right now, while I'm going through that, how do you feel about the idea of having neither or both of Pierre and DJ? I think DJ has his moments, questionable lineup decisions all season long. I think the players like him enough, and I'm really happy with what Pierre's done for this team. Going back to leading up to the last draft. So I would love to know from everyone watching in the chat. Let me know, how do you feel about the idea of both or neither of them? Which way do you lean? And that's going to be a talking point later on in the show if we get enough answers on that. And hey, while I've got your attention and asking you to do things, feel free to tweet out the link to this show, and we'll bring in some more people. We can talk more about some real doomsday shit, or maybe we'll get positive. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see which way this goes. So I'm gonna head into the chat here. From Newbie Sports, Charlie, you can talk about your tattoo the whole show. Anything to take the pain of this game away. I'll tell you what. My pain tolerance is pretty solid. I'm usually pretty good with getting tattoos. That said, this game was probably a more painful experience for me. Granted, possibly I won't I know I won't shut up about it. I should. I signed up for this job. I knew where I was going to be living. This game started at 3 a.m. It's fucking 6:13 a.m. for me right now, and I'm doing this show. But that's okay, because I'm just going to go to bed and sleep for as long as I want following this one. The beauty of this awful scheduled game for me being on a Saturday night. So that's a plus. Let's see here. And yeah, so from Adam Lee 007. As a Nucks fan, I wish the Sens won. Yes, that's something I want to know actually, because the Canucks have kind of been doing it the last little while. Like the tank is more or less over. And I don't know how Canucks fans feel about that. As weak as a lot of the West is, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of ground made up between where the Canucks are and the playoff picture. So safe to say the playoffs aren't going to be an option for the Canucks. And at that point, wouldn't you rather just tank completely? So I'm not sure how Canucks fans feel. Appreciate the fact that you also wanted the Sens to win. As did I. That said, though, I will quickly pop away from the chat just to take a quick look at the out-of-town scoreboards. So, because listen, it's exhausting. It really is. But I am at the same time, I'm so happy that we're at the point now where like I give a shit about what the teams around Ottawa are doing this late into the season. It's refreshing. I haven't done this since 2017. So as far as the out-of-town scoreboards, let me see if I can find what I wrote here. So Detroit and the Islanders lost in regulation. Buffalo and Florida lost in OT. Pittsburgh won. So as far as out-of-town scoreboard watching goes, it's not a bad night for Ottawa. Unfortunately, they didn't make up any room themselves. Couldn't get even a point out of Vancouver, which is that's like. I mean, the game is a loss, but the fact that you couldn't even get a point is just a disaster. Man, that's rough. When a few games ago, when I was looking ahead of the schedule, and the next 4 games at the time were Columbus, Chicago, Seattle, and Vancouver, I was like, okay, that's an easy 3 out of 4. Turns out it's only a 2 out of 4, and you lose to Vancouver and Chicago. Rough. So like I said, out-of-town scoreboard, not too bad for Ottawa. Like by no means is it as bad as most nights have been. It seems like over the past week, every single team that Ottawa's trying to chase has decided, what if we just win all the time? So it is nice to kind of have that change. But we'll see how that all goes. Let's see. Connor Cahill says, you guys should be embarrassed going from 6-on-4 to shorthand in the space of 2 minutes. 2 things I want to talk about for this one. First of all, correct. The Ottawa Senators should be embarrassed. The second thing, and this is what I take issue with in this comment, is the you guys should be embarrassed. I'm an Ottawa Senators fan. I wasn't on the ice, buddy. Like, why should I be embarrassed? Listen, I know in the world of sports and trash talking, it can get heated. You get attached to your favorite team. I'm covering this team in a live podcast show on YouTube. Like, it's safe to say I adore this team. I love the sport of hockey. I love the Ottawa Senators. But what irks me, outside of just like, and listen, friendly trash talk, I'm all about it. I love going at the trash talk. But when it's like, you should be embarrassed because the human beings that you cheer for fucked up at the end of a game. Like, no, why should I be embarrassed? Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm an adult man who has nothing to do with this game. I'm not embarrassed. They should be. Let's see here. Yeah, so from Rozzy, the Canucks were never going to get Bedard. Probably not. Probably not. That said, I do think that Vancouver, I mean, outside of the fact that's probably where he wants to go, I do think Vancouver would have been one of my ideal spots for him as far as like potential Bedard landing spots. I do really like that. Is it mostly because Western Conference? Maybe. But I did run the draft lottery sim earlier today, and the first 2 results I got were Chicago winning. So that's basically worst case scenario, and I'm afraid I may have jinxed it because that's main character syndrome. From Lyndon Wong in the chat, it's his second shorthanded goal in 4 games. I don't understand it either. This, I'm assuming, being about JT Miller. Second shorthanded goal in 4 games. So I don't know what the deal is there. Has Miller just like learned? Like, has he been playing? Has he been playing on the PK all season? If there are any Canucks fans watching, I would love to know if Miller's been playing on the PK all season, and if so, why? 2 shorthanded goals in the past 4 games aside, just in general, that's kind of wild. From Newbie Sports, Hamonic and Holden both looked bad this game. Sure, Holden got the second goal, but like, would like some defense from our defenseman. I am completely with you. Listen, so another whole thing is as far as I know, Zub did not return to the game, which is a disaster. Which would also be his third, fourth, maybe 4th injury of the season if he's out for a bit. Holy shit. Disaster. Especially if Sogard is also going to be out for a bit. I know he stayed in the game, but sometimes the adrenaline of being in the game, you can kind of fight through a bit of an injury, but maybe he tweaked something and the team wants him to sit out a couple games, and then what you're missing you're probably top stay-at-home defenseman. You're then running your 4th and 5th string goalies if they have to call someone up, and Mandolese is going to be the starter for the next little bit. Like that, between the injuries and the fact that these teams that Ottawa has been chasing and are now trying to stay ahead of keep winning while Ottawa's losing very winnable games. Maybe not so much this game. I do think that this game was... It wasn't so much Ottawa lost because they played like shit. They did, but Vancouver also played well. So I'm not looking at this game nearly the same way I'd be looking at the Chicago game, for example. But it's all adding up to just a nightmare scenario, especially with how this playoff push is going. Just no one can stay healthy. But yeah, that said, so I completely veered off from the comment I was reading. I am absolutely one of those people who wants to see the top 4 being Shabbat, Zub, Sanderson, and Chikrin. Arrange those 4 however you want into whatever 2 pairings you want. The issue then is that the third pairing is going to be Hamonic and Holden, or Hamonic and Brandstrom. I think regardless of whether you have Hamonic or Holden, first of all, Brandstrom needs to be an everyday, frankly, 5th defenseman. The fact that DJ looks at him as a 6/7th, probably leaning towards a 7th defenseman, is ridiculous. Brandstrom generally score sheet. We're going nerd analytics here. Brandstrom has been good. He's been good this year. Like not fine. He's been good. So the fact that DJ's looking at this at Holden and Hamonic and putting both of them ahead of Brandstrom is nuts. So I think that third pairing, whether you have Hamonic or Holden in, it shouldn't be both. It needs to be one or the other. And next season you have to replace whichever one, ideally both, who you have playing with Brandstrom. If Brandstrom can get a decent, I don't even want to say a great player to play with, because that top 4 is disgusting and wonderful. If Brandstrom can get some playing time and he can get a decent, defenseman to pair with, that is a phenomenal 1 through 6 on defense next season. And if DJ keeps scratching Brandstrom for what we saw tonight at a Holden and Hamonic, inexcusable, completely inexcusable. Let's see here. So, from Adam Firebear, DJ seems like a decent coach, but not a great coach. That's an excellent point. It's really interesting to think about, can you win with either a great coach or a great GM with the other being crappy, or is the GM the true make or break? That's also a really interesting question. I don't know what's more important between a GM and a coach, because you could have a great GM, but if your coach is running really dumb systems and Granted, so it is up to the GM to make the roster, but then the coach making the lineup decisions, that can be iffy as well. And I know I was just complaining about the lack of Brandstrom ice time. Even when he does play, Brandstrom's struggling to get into games, and when he does, he's playing 15 minutes. Like, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. From Lyndon Wong, don't ask us. We don't know either. So yeah, looks like we won't be getting all that many answers to you know, do you keep DJ if it means you get to keep Pierre, or do you want to just start fresh with new ownership? From Cornelius Parker, Stützle got hit into oblivion tonight. The Sens started great, yet good lord, they fell asleep at the wheel until 5 minutes left in the third. Don't like this lineup on D. Chicker needs to be top four. Welcome to the show, Cornelius. We've been you probably put that in there right during my defense rant. But yeah, no, I do agree. Chicker needs to be top four. But like, Chicker needs to be top four, and Brandstrom needs to play every night. It needs to be a swap between Hamnick and Holden. I'm gonna try and leave it at that. Otherwise, I'll spend the whole show just talking about how Brandstrom needs to be getting ice time over both of those guys. And if anyone's playing 15 minutes a night, it should be Hamnick or Holden. From Newbie, so fingers crossed Ryan Reynolds and his group win the bid for the Sens. I don't know. At this point, I love the idea of Ryan Reynolds, just because, like, I mean, I like Ryan, like, who doesn't like Ryan Reynolds? But I do remember, you know, sort of at the beginning, because it's gone quiet, right? Like, it was, like, he was talking about it a ton, and then, like, as it got real, he shut up. So I think, you know, pretty early on, someone said, listen, stop talking about it. But when he was talking about it a lot, I don't remember the exact quote. I don't want to fuck this up too badly, but so like I said, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, like, you know, with his ties to Ottawa, Vanier specifically, he feels like he knows how to, like, I don't remember the exact quote. It was something along the lines of, like, he feels like he's comfortable telling their story. And I'm not going to say that every time Ryan Reynolds is involved with anything that has to do with sports, he's going to be making a welcome to Wrexham. But can you imagine any kind of coverage outside of just your standard news stuff, sports news, whatever, for the Sens? I mean, people lost their mind. Not even just Leafs fans. People were excited when Amazon did that Leafs series, right? Just the fact that, like, holy shit, this larger entity is paying attention to hockey. It doesn't happen. It never happens. So even outside of Leafs, people who aren't Leafs fans ate that up. So I feel like the more people we get involved, and granted, I am biased because it's Ryan Reynolds looking at the Sens, and the main thing is talking about the Sens. Whether he was buying the Sens or the Canucks or fucking any team at all, if his plan was to make a docu-series or any series or anything in general about the NHL and the sport, that is nothing but great for the sport and the growth of the game. Like, who knew about Wrexham before him and Rob McElhenney bought the team? And is it safe to say that Wrexham is now, like, a lot of huge soccer and footy fans? Like, it must be a safe bet that that's a lot of people's number two team, just because they have a soft spot and they watch the show. On top, look what Drive to Survive did for F1. I mean, F1's always been huge, but especially in North America, that show, I think it was big enough in the South. Like, I think there's been some crossover as far as fandom with, like, NASCAR and F1, so, like, that makes sense. But as far as, like, in Canada, like motorsport hasn't had, like, too many diehard fans, at least in my age bracket, I guess. But so and like, fuck, my parents and my brother watch Drive to Survive religiously, and that show turned them, especially my mom, into diehard F1 fans because the show was good. Like, can you imagine what a well done hockey based show can do for the sport? Ryan Reynolds, I genuinely believe this, and it's not just because it's Ryan Reynolds and it's the Ottawa Senators, and I'm biased, and I fucking clearly am biased. I honestly think, regardless of what the team is, and the fact that I believe this and it's the Ottawa Senators involved and not like, a team people outside of the market give a shit about, honestly, a good show can do more to grow the game than Bettman or anyone in the NHL has done in the past decade. 2 decades? So going back to, like, hockey was on the rise in the 80s and 90s. Like, it was looking good. And then it just crashed, right? Like, is it even a top 4 sport outside of Canada? Obviously, some European countries, it's huge. But, like, if you're looking at the biggest market being the States, like, who cares about hockey? So I genuinely think if Ryan Reynolds gets the Sens, if he's part of that ownership group, because it sounds like reports said that he's been linked to one specific group. Listen, if that goes through and a show is made about the Sens, first of all, I'll love it. Sens fans will love it. But more importantly, I genuinely believe that it would grow the game more than, basically any type of outreach or attempt at growing the sport has done through the NHL in years. Which is great because, listen, like, fandom aside, we all love hockey. We want hockey to be bigger. We want it to be more popular. We want it to be better. And the more diverse the more diverse the population of the fans are, that can only mean good things for the sport. So this all came from, hey, do you think Ryan Reynolds will buy the team? So I went on a whole fucking tangent right there. But yeah, we haven't really talked about Ryan Reynolds at all on the show since those initial reports when he went to the Canucks Sens game when they played in Ottawa, which the Sens also lost. Huh. But yeah. Scroll up in the chat here. I've missed a few things here. We'll go through the chat here and then wrap things up. So this is fun. Instead of talking about the game, I talked about Ryan Reynolds and how Eric Branstrom used to play. Branstrom is overrated. Supposed to be an offensive D and can't do that. He improved defensively, but it's easy to improve on something when you start at 0. He needs to play, though, or he won't develop. So I will agree he needs to play or he won't develop, but he has not been an issue offensively. This team, up until about a week and a half ago, couldn't score 5-on-5 to save its life. The Sens could not score 5-on-5 at all. At one point, like, they looked so good shorthanded. I think they might have. There was a couple games there where they may have outscored themselves shorthanded versus 5-on-5. So when you are a third pairing defenseman fighting for your fucking life to, number one, get in the lineup and play more than 15 minutes in a game, and you're only playing 5-on-5, and your team can't score 5-on-5, of course he doesn't have any points. Of course he's not putting points up on the score sheet. That's just like, I don't want to be like, you're wrong. Like, I don't want to be mean, but you're kind of wrong. Like, when you're stuck 5-on-5 and trying to play more than 15 minutes, and you know who you're playing with, right? It's either Holden or actually, it would have been Holden for most of the season, because up until the acquisition of Chychrun, it was very much Hamnick was only playing with Sanderson, which I still think is kind of happening. Listen, when you're playing with Nick Holden and you're playing 15 minutes a night, and the forwards you're out on the ice with more often than not are like Dylan Gambrell and fucking like Austin Watson and Parker Kelly, like, yeah, no shit, he's not putting up any points. The analytics are there. He's a great play driver. The issue with Branch, he can carry the puck with the best of them. it's just once he, gets the offensive zone and tries to make a pass or take a shot, like then it gets a little iffy. And I do think that has to do with a lack of play time and just not being able to get into a routine or a rhythm. I'm a brand I won't say I'm a Brandstrom truther. I'm a Brandstrom believer. And I think more of the reason I want him in the lineup every night is because I'm sick of Hamnick and Holden. I do think that, at the very least, if not mostly, that it's at least 50-50. I want to see Brandstrom in the lineup, and I want to see Hamnick or Holden out. So that's what I'll say there. Past that, let's see. So yeah, Lord knows the NHL needs marketing 100%. And then from Cornelius, I'd like to see Gauthier back in the lineup. Take out Gambrell or Watson to slide him in the bottom six. I completely agree. He showed honestly, like Gauthier showed flashes of brilliance is a strong word, but he genuinely looked really solid a few times. He's got great size, speed is nuts. Dude can fly. I saw a few Rangers fans say during when the trade happened that they're like, this dude can fly and he can carry the puck. The issue is that once he gets to the offensive zone, he doesn't know what to do with the puck. And maybe that's an accurate scouting report. I have no idea. From the games he's played with Ottawa, I thought honestly, and maybe it's because it's a direct comparison to who they have in the bottom six currently, but I thought he looked solid. Maybe, like I said, in comparison to, the Austin Watsons and the Parker Kellys and the Dylan Gambrells and whoever. I also think Patrick Bowness looked pretty good. Even his goal aside the other night, like I do think in general he's looked all right. But I do think that depth, both defensively and as far as the fourth line goes, the Sens really need to. That's what the Sens need to address in the offseason going into next season, because I don't want to. Okay. I don't want to be like, oh, the season's over. Let's talk about offseason. It's not over. Like, we still have some fun games left. There's still a playoff push to be had. It's going to be a blast. But listen, even before this big push happened, we all knew next year was the year, especially now with the Chychrun acquisition. Next year is the year, so we'll do that. But yeah. So I think I've landed on an answer here. We were talking about, are we sick enough of DJ's lineup decisions to warrant replacing Pierre? And I think so. God, I don't know. The Sens just lost, and I spent like. So we're about to hit minute 39 of the show. And I have spent a good chunk of this episode specifically complaining about the ice time and general usage of the depth players. And listen, the guys on your fourth line shouldn't be the deciding factor in whether you win or lose. I get that, but like it just feels like I'm doing that thing where I'm like, I know better than NHL coaches. I don't. But it just feels like the right choices are obvious, and those are never the choices that are made. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, all that to say, I do think that this team could hot take, this team could use some improvements. Yeah, no shit. But I think. We'll see what happens with new ownership and how much they clean house and everything. But all that to say, DJ, while he's here, I want different lineup decisions, frankly. From Cornelius, I'd get rid of DJ and give Dorian another season, give him a chance at another offseason of improving this team. I'm with you. But my issue is, I feel like with new ownership coming in, they're either cleaning house or they're leaving everything as is, which is why I think Sens are in for another season of either both of them or neither of them, and that's if the acquisition of the team happens between now and the beginning of next season, which Fuck, I hope it does. I really, really hope it does. And I think we'll end the stream with a little bit of positivity from Newbie once again in the chat. This team has potential. It absolutely does. And if it weren't for that start to the season, they'd be in the playoffs. If this team hadn't started the season 6-12-1, they'd be in the playoffs. Since that 6-12-1 start, including tonight's game, the team has gone, I believe, 27-16-3. That is a playoff team. So, I don't want to lean too hard into next year as the year, even though that is the case, because there is still a chance to make the playoffs. My buddy Austin, who is a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, who will be on the show actually on I believe April 1st. He's my guest for that episode of Game Over. He told me that he looks at this Sens team potentially playing the Boston Bruins in the first round, and he was saying that this team gives him like the Columbus Blue Jackets that beat the Lightning in 2019 vibes. God, that'd be nice. Could you imagine? That'd be nice. I don't know how likely that is, or even how realistic it is to even hope for that, but it would be fun. So with that, I think we'll end it here, folks. Thank you for tuning in to this very late edition of Game Over Ottawa. Subscribe to STPN on YouTube, folks. Like the stream, and if you liked it, share it around. Tell all your friends that Game Over Ottawa is fun, even when watching the Sens isn't. So I believe Mod. Let me just line things up for the next couple of shows. I believe Mod's doing the next couple of games. I just want to double check that real quick and be accurate. Yes. So Mod is doing the remaining 2 games on this Western road trip. Calgary on Sunday and Edmonton on Tuesday. And then I will be back on March 16th for the first game back home, following this road trip against Colorado. And my God, the rest of the season is rough. This is a tough remaining schedule. And listen, the Sens are one of those teams that seem to up their game against the good teams and forget how to play against the bad teams. So maybe that's a good thing. We'll be positive while we can. So, like I said before, thank you guys so much for checking out the stream or listening to this after the fact. That's how you enjoy Game Over. And with that, we will see you next time. Good night. Or in my case, good morning. Like I said, I won't shut up about it. The sun's coming up. The sun's coming up at the end of the episode of Game Over. It is 6:40 a.m. I'll see you guys next time.
Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.